They're 29th in points allowed, 21st in points scored. Ron Rivera has to be on the hot seat. There's Kelvin Benjamin has been a nice bright spot, but there's not enough. For the Vikings, Teddy Bridgewater is going through growing pains. It's to be expected. It's not a knock on him. Adrian Peterson obviously is non-existent. Jerick McKinnon seems at times like he could be the answer, but even the Vikings don't seem like they seem too sold on him. This game has the makings of a garbage bowl, really, to tell you the truth. But with Minnesota being at home, I will take them in this game.
Keith, the Vikings should win this game at home. And I think you've got to have a little bit of faith in the team, not just their defense, which has been generally playing well this entire season, but their offense. Teddy Bridgewater's been a bit of a struggle, even though he's had some pretty good matchups. But you look at the Panthers' defense, and they've been pretty much a sieve. Pretty much anything gets through them. Anything. It could be the running game. It could be the passing game. So, Teddy Bridgewater should seriously rise to the occasion in this game. That having been said, both teams struggle in pass defense in terms of scoring, giving up about 2 touchdowns per game. And the Panthers in particular are weak at their rush defense, giving up better than 1 touchdown per game, and the Vikings are close to giving up 1 touchdown per game. So we should see a little bit of everything from everybody. I like this to be a close game. I like the score to be 23-20. For the Panthers, go ahead and start Cam Newton. He's got 2 TDs in him this week, believe it or not. This is not a Vikings defense that is so good that it will shut him down completely, even though he will have some difficulty. Keep Greg Olsen active as one of the better tight ends in the league and in fantasy football. Kelvin Benjamin has become a weekly must-start. He's just a big target, and any time that he and Cam Newton can spend time together makes him a better player, and I think he's becoming a better player each and every single week. D'Angelo Williams is sort of a flex play. My confidence, it's hard to just look at him and go, oh, you know what he's going to do this week. So if you have him, you probably know him better than I do. He's a flex, but it's a maybe depending what your other options are. For the Vikings, look, this is a great matchup for Jerick McKinnon. If he can't do it this week, I don't know that he'll be able to do it ever. I like him as a flex play if you have him. Charles Johnson is a real sleeper. I know the last couple weeks, and I actually just published an article this evening on his fantasy outlook. Please come to thefantasygreek.com and check it out under player news or under the Vikings team page. But he's a sleeper. He's been coming on the last few weeks. He's being targeted quite heavily by Teddy Bridgewater. If you need the help, you can sneak him in. Looking for Greg Jennings to get a score, and that Vikings defense, they're a low-end option. Again, Vikings at home, 23-20.
The New Orleans Saints travel to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Saints are very un-Saints, 4-6. Travel to the Steelers, who are 7-4, who are wildly inconsistent. When they are good, they are very good. Here's the deal, kids. The Saints do not play well on the road. They do not play well outside on grass. The Steelers, while they are not perfect by any stretch, they have a decent pass rush, and the Saints struggle with pass blocking. They just do. I am going to take the Steelers at home.
Oh, you changed your mind too.
No, I picked them.
Oh, did you really?
Yep.
Oh, well, see, I took the Saints, and I'm taking the Steelers. I looked at this game, and everything points to this being the upset special of the week, with so many people probably thinking the Saints are going to walk in there and take this away from the Steelers. They're evenly matched in terms of their offensive scoring. Certainly the numbers are a little bit inflated by the Steelers in their those games that they scored, 5-6 touchdowns each. But the reality is that they can score those kinds of points, which means they can keep up with the Saints. On top of it, you've got their defense getting healthy. Ike Taylor will be back on the field. Troy Polamalu will be back on the field. And the Saints, they struggle defending the rush. And you know what? That plays to the greatest strength that the Steelers have on the gridiron, and that's Le'Veon Bell. He should have a huge game this week. So you're starting Le'Veon. You can start Big Ben as a low QB1. Martavius Bryant is a definite must-start, is Antonio Brown. For the Saints, look, they're going to be in this game. Drew Brees should be able to put 2 touchdowns for sure, and I think 3, maybe even 4. Mark Ingram should bounce back nicely this week. Not a huge game, but not a bad game either. Jimmy Graham, you keep him started. And definitely Marcus Colston. I think he's the person that's going to benefit the most from Brandon Cooks' absence. But other than that, I think the people in Steel City are going to have a good time with this one. Steelers winning.
The Oakland Raiders travel to the St. Louis Rams. The Raiders, again, Derek Carr, rookie quarterback, taking his lumps. He had a nice win last Thursday night against the Chiefs at home. And they play the Rams, who are coming off a 3-point defeat to the San Diego Chargers. That's right. They only lost to the Chargers by 3 points. the thing here, kids, is that there's not a whole lot going on here, except the Raiders are pointing to the future, and the Rams are, but they have Sean Hill at quarterback. At least the Raiders have a quarterback. The Rams' defense has played really, really well. They do play well against the run, and the Raiders will struggle, and they will put that all on Derek Carr. And being on the road, I will take the Rams.
I'm going to take the Rams at home, too. I mean, I think at the end of the day, the bottom line is they're playing really, really good defensive football. Right now, they almost beat the Chargers last week, and they did that in San Diego. So I just can't see how a Raiders team who's coming off a huge win and has a pretty good defense can somehow overcome that over the Rams in St. Louis. For the Raiders, Latavius Murray, he is a solid RB2 this week. Obviously, we saw him blow it up last week. I don't know that he'll have that same success, but I think if you have him, you can get him in there as an RB2. James Jones, I like as a low-end wide receiver 3. You're going to consider him with your other options. For the Rams, Trey Mason, he is a mid to high RB2. This is a Raiders rush defense that gives up roughly 128 yards rushing per game, as well as over 1 TD per game. And you're obviously going to start the Rams defense. This is definitely a team and a defensive unit that no one wants to play right now, especially if they have aspirations to go to the playoffs. And if you want a super sleeper this week on defense, and I mean, you really are looking around going, oh my God, name that defense, Keith. A bad defense.
A bad defense?
A bad defense.
Name any bad defense?
Come on, I said a bad defense.
The Bears defense.
All right. You have the Bears. You're going, I really don't want to play them this week against the Lions. Consider the Raiders. The Rams have given up 8 defensive touchdowns and 1 kick return for a touchdown. I was stunned when I looked at those numbers, and I'm just like, wow, this is like an opportunity. I mean, this could be a really low-scoring game, and that's why I think they're a sleeper or super sleeper this week. I mean, I'm not running out to get them just to play them. I would only consider them if I'm desperate. Rams win at home.
The Cincinnati Bengals travel to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bengals getting back on the right side of the win column there, beating the Texans 22-13 in in Houston. Even though the Texans came back largely due to a pick 6 thrown by Andy Dalton, gave them a little bit of momentum. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers went into Chicago and led at the half. This Buccaneers defense that has struggled at times looked like it was coming around in Chicago last week. Do you believe that they can do that against the Bengals at home? I personally do not. The Bengals, I think, are one of the better teams in the AFC still, even though they stumbled a little bit out of their bye. And on the road, at home, it doesn't make any difference to me. The Bengals are the more talented team, offensively, defensively. Even if Tampa plays them tight, I think Cincinnati has enough to eventually figure out how to win this in the end. I'm picking the Bengals on the road.
Keith, I think it's an afterthought. You have to pick the Bengals. Look, for all the struggles that they've had, they are still the number 14 ranked offense in the league. They can still put points on the board, and they have to be one of the hottest defenses these last few weeks. And they've had some really, really good games. The Buccaneers, their defense has done some special things too, but that offense is still just not all right. I mean, they hardly have a rushing attack. And yes, Mike Evans is great, but he's not going to win a football game by himself. And this is the kind of matchup where you can see a guy like Josh McCown struggling. In fact, I would say if you're even thinking about playing Josh McCown this week, you bench him. He's not worth it. Avoid him. The only Buccaneer to play is Mike Evans, and that's it. For the Bengals, you're starting Jeremy Hill as an RB1, Gio Bernard is an RB2, A.J. Green is a wide receiver 1, Mohamed Sanu is a wide receiver 2, and that Bengals defense, they're a DST1, baby, top 5 or top 6, 7, something like that. Bengals should beat the Buccaneers.
The Arizona Cardinals travel to the Atlanta Falcons. The Arizona Cardinals, who last week at the 87sportsfans.com power rankings were actually number 2 ahead of the Green Bay Packers. But they were missing Larry Fitzgerald last week, and it showed. Yes, they were playing the Seahawks, but there was little to no offense to speak of. Andre Ellington last week, 10 rushes for only 24 yards. Drew Stanton, 14 of 26 for 149 yards. They go into Atlanta, a team that lost last week to the Browns at home. They are not unbeatable at home anymore. They are open to ridicule on all sides of the ball, including the coaching staff. The question is, in my mind, will Larry Fitzgerald play? He's questionable right now with a knee injury. If he doesn't play, I think Atlanta wins this game. But if he's questionable, means I think he'll find a way to play. If he's on the field, Arizona's defense is really, really good. They're first in points allowed, fourth in rushing yards per game. They are susceptible through the air, though, and that would play in Atlanta's hands. But I am going to take the Cardinals actually on the road to get back on track.
This is a get-well game for the Cardinals, and I don't think it really matters whether Larry Fitzgerald is active or not. This is the number 2 defense in the league, allowing 17.7 points per game. Even if the Falcons could do something better than that, it's not going to be much. They've only allowed 5 rushing TDs to date, 15 pass TDs to date. I mean, that's less than 2 TDs per game. So for the Falcons, they're really showing sort of their humanity, for lack of a better word. They can be beaten, and they can be beaten at home. Matt Ryan is a QB2 this week, maybe a low QB1. My personal preference is to avoid him and to bench him. Julio Jones, Roddy White, I think they're decent players because they could each put up 100 yards and one of them get a score. Steven Jackson, just bench him. Just bench him. The Cardinals' rush defense, 85 yards per game, number 3 rushing defense in the league. For the Cardinals, on the other hand, there's a lot of different players you can start. Andre Ellington this week is an RB1 against a rush defense, giving up 126 yards per game, and 1.5 to 2 TDs per week. Michael Floyd, he makes for a wide receiver 2. John Brown for a wide receiver 3. The Cardinals DST, you just start them. Larry Fitzgerald, if he's active, there's a huge question of how active he'll be, meaning, is he still going to be hampered by his injury? But I don't think it makes a difference here. I think that the Cardinals blow up the Falcons.
All right, the Patriots travel to the Green Bay Packers. The 9-2 Patriots versus the 8-3 Packers. This is easily the game of the week in my eyes. The Patriots, if you listen to the show, I was not high on them after they got blown out in Kansas City. They have more than righted the ship. They are playing the best football in the league. They are the best team in the NFL right now. The Green Bay Packers, though, are not far behind. Just how similar are these teams? Well, the Packers are first in points scored. The Patriots are second in points scored. The Patriots are 6th in passing yards per game. The Packers are 8th. The Patriots are 15th in rushing yards per game. The Packers are 18th. The Packers are 13th in defensive passing yards allowed per game. The Patriots are 17th. Where they differ, the Patriots' rush defense is 14th, and the Packers' rush defense is 30th. So what does that mean? Well, the New England Patriots signed LeGarrette Blount, and all of a sudden he looked like a champion again. Less than a week removed from walking off the field and being ridden out of Pittsburgh, he shows up in New England and all of a sudden rushes for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns and is looking like the hero again. It's just amazing. You can't make this stuff up. Look, the Green Bay Packers at home are tough to beat. They're 5-0 this year. Playing in Lambeau is not easy for most teams, but the Patriots are used to cold weather. The only distraction here is those damn cheese things that those idiots wear on their heads up in Green Bay. I don't see any reason to pick against the Patriots yet. They're playing the best football, and until they stop, I am picking the New England Patriots.
I wish we had some of that music where, it makes it sound like it's the winter and it's cold and destitute and gray, and because that's what it's going to be like for the Patriots going to Lambeau Field and playing football this weekend. Here, the 2 best teams in all of football get to play, and if you're one of those 2 teams and you get to play in your home field, you should win that game. I see the Packers winning this game. They're 5-0 at home. They're 2-0 non-conference. On a bad day at home in Lambeau, they've scored 38 points. If you look at the Patriots, on the other hand, they're a 3-2 on the road record type team. They're averaging 29 points themselves on the road, and their opponents are at about 25. I kept going back and forth. This is going to be a low-scoring game, a high-scoring game, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, which means in fantasy football you're going to get crazy and you're going to play all types of people. You're playing Tom Brady, obviously Rob Gronkowski. Look for Julian Edelman as a wide receiver 3, Brandon LaFell as a wide receiver 3. I like Tim Wright in this game as a sleeper. I know he's more of a touchdown guy, but boy, they've been using him that way, and he's been mighty, mighty.